Alright, so let's say we're ready to create a feature to get our product backlog meeting ready. So we're already under the new dissemination model space and we've clicked onto the product requirement space shortcut. Here we have an overview of all the requirements that our client wants for the new dissemination model. That's not to say that it's realistic, nor to say that we'll actually deliver on it. This is just documented stuff that our client wants us to work on. So let's say our client wants something new, a new feature. For the product that we're building, we're going to click on the Add Product Requirement button. So let's click Create, and I'll guide you through creating a new feature sheet. So in this case, a user story. Seems that my Confluence is kind of slow today. Okay, so we're on the creation of a new user story. So for the news page, we're going to give this an ID. So let's say MD052. The important thing that is this is a unique identifier that you can sort of remember and associate to your feature, because essentially you can search by this ID in the Confluence search to get to it quickly. So let's say MD052 security model. This is very fictitious, just for your information. So target release. Essentially, your client should tell you when in time that they desire this feature. That does not say that it's realistic. This is just a wish date for which they want the feature. So let's say this is for beta 1 for the NTM. The target release would be defined by your project. The milestone. So essentially this is a smaller chunk of date than the target release date and for which you would have your feature ready for. So let's say the milestone for myself is usability testing 7. The epic. So the epic, this is the really large feature that you get initially from your client where it's really ill-defined. This could be a few sentences or a little more. But essentially, this is a piece of work that is probably 60 days or more, and for which you need to do more analysis to really understand what your client wants in their software. So let's say, in my case, 015. So I'm going to make a search on this. I already have features. Let's pretend this makes sense and it's an epic. And so increase the size of place name postal code search is my epic. This is fictitious, remember. So here, it's linked to a previous epic. The document status is essentially just the point in time in the creation of the document. And so you could have the draft, it might be in progress, it might be written, it might be client accepted. So essentially, it's just essentially a status for you to know where in the process of your document lifecycle where you are at right now. The document owner by default will be yourself, so the person that's created the page. And it's just to give you an idea of who to contact in terms of who created the document. Product owner, this will always be a client person. And so if the person needs more detail on who created the requirements, they can get in touch. And so in order to associate a person to this field, you put the @ sign, and here in my case, it would be Daniel Paquin. So here we go, we know who to contact. The analyst tester is the person who is responsible to fulfill the analyst and tester role in the case of creating feature sheets. So in my case, it will be myself. Developer. If you're not entirely converted to a Scrum-based model, you could assign a specific developer. However, in my case, developers choose the task, not your Scrum masters. I'm going to leave this blank. Estimate ideal days. Essentially, once you're done with the product backlog meeting, your goal is to fill this box of the estimate in terms of ideal days. There's options in terms of how you want to assign your estimates. So you could do t-shirt size, you could do PERT chart, Gantt chart, you can do ideal days, you can do relative poker complexity points. This is up to you. Jira. So let's say you've created Jira, you can link back your Confluence and your Jira together. For now, we'll leave this blank because we haven't created it. If you already know that you have dependencies for this feature, you can put them here. So I'll open square brackets, and then let's say MD015. This is going to be a Confluence dependency for the sake of the demonstration. However, you can also link back to Jira. It's up to you. So this is just free form text. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the feature sheet. The goals section. So here you have to describe what is the overall strategy. So what are you trying to achieve? Why are you doing this? So here as and, here let's say subject matter expert. So this should let our developers know that people need to be identified, authenticated, and authorized in order to use this module. So I want to, so what is the action and the result that the system would do in terms of the implementation? So let's say here I want to manage the users that are assigned to our module. This is very generic and fictitious. In order to, let's say, have better control of the administrators and users of the system. Essentially, you've done the purpose of the goal right. If you cannot test your goals, which means that it's not specific to implementation, and it helps the developer understand why he's doing this work. So scenarios. Scenarios are specific versions of the feature that will tell you how the goal will be implemented. You also have to stay aware and recognize that you do not want to describe specific implementation. So you don't want to be talking about the pink button or that the position is on the right. Anything that's really specific to user design would be in a latter section. So here we're really talking about actions and inputs and outputs. So here, let's say given, so here my user is authenticated and in the role of administrator when, let's say, the tab administer is launched, so which is the action, then the list of users is displayed to the user, and the list is in the user's language of choice. Okay, remember this is fictitious, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then you can give it something of a title or scenario one that will help you communicate and identify which flow this is. So let's say this is the administrative panel view. For scenario 2, so this might be something completely unrelated to scenario 1, but that helps fulfill this feature, or it might be somewhat of an exception case. So let's say the user is not authenticated. So user is not authenticated and in the role of administrator. So let's say maybe the user is only a user or something else than an administrator. So when the tab administrator is launched, then maybe something else happens, like they get an error message. The screen displays an error message saying you do not have the proper permissions in order to view this module, and the message is displayed in the user's language of choice. So still very fictitious. You could give this a title, so the title would be maybe exception case, improper permissions for administrative panel view. So let's say you've made a few of these scenarios that could cover a realistic portion of the different flows within your module or your feature. So then you would move on to the assumptions. So let's say the assumptions is that we will use the LDAP technology provided the web service from StatsCan. So essentially you list any assumptions where you move forward with your feature sheets. And your estimates will be tied to the assumptions that you made in your feature sheet. So let's say the assumptions change, then your estimates need to be revised accordingly. Okay, so for user interaction and design, usually clients are very interested in the look and feel of your design, and this is sort of the neat trick to get them to separate logic and actions with the user design. So here, let's say they are really interested in having the tab be pink. Here is where you would put it, not in your scenarios or your goals. So the tab administrator is pink because it's very important to them. Let's say they also want the tab administrator to be in bold font. So where you put it? The tab administrator is in bold font. Okay, next one is questions. So initially when you do your paths, you meet with your clients, the feature sheet might seem fine, or your user story might seem fine, and then you realize, oh no, I didn't think of this, or I didn't think of that. So essentially here you can just put a list of questions that you want to clarify later, and then you can assign your clients to answer this question. So if they're following up on the progress of your feature sheet, they know that you have a question for them and they can do the proper follow-up. So let's say here my question is, did we really intend to have the tab named, let's say here, administrator. And then we can ask Daniel Paquin if he still feels strongly about this name of administrator. So here Daniel Paquin, and then here once the outcome is resolved, we can write specifically. So let's say he gets back to me, and he says, no, actually, I don't really feel about the tab name administrator. I really want the table or the tab should be named Pink Pony. So here the outcome will say, now we really wanted to have the tab named Pink Pony. And here we go. We can ask multiple questions and have the outcome filled as we go along. So not doing. So this might seem redundant. However, let's say that you've negotiated a certain scope with your clients. You could say that you're not doing this as part of a certain feature. And this is especially important when you break down features to fit into your sprints, and that you know that you'll incrementally deliver value to your clients, however, not in your first sprint. So let's say that we're not doing the add and remove user module as part of the security module. And then you would say this explicitly. Once you're happy with your feature sheet or your user story, then you can press save. So here we're just going to wait. And then our features sheet or user story of security module will be saved to Confluence. So let's just wait to get that confirmation, and then we'll move on to Jira to have the Jira ticket filled out. So this is what it looks like, which is great. You know, it saved everything on our list. And then we're going to go to Jira. So create. And then we're going to create a Jira ticket for this specific feature. So here, project mapping applications. Issue type, this is actually a new feature. Summary. What I typically do is just copy paste the title here. Component. So which component of your project is the feature assigned to? In my case, this might be map to data. Effective version. So if you viewed our versioning video, then you would know what this is. But essentially, it's which at what point in time of the software did the feature need to be created, or at what time and point of the software was the bug noticed, and for which you need to implement a fix. So let's say in our case, this is MD02024. You might not already know this and leave it blank. Fixed version, well, you don't know when you're going to fix this. So let's leave this blank. Assignee, in our case, we're not assigning specific tasks or features to developers, so we'll leave this blank also. Environment. So this is which environment in terms of software environments have you noticed this feature? In our case, this is not a bug, and we're just wanting a new feature, so we can leave this blank or put dev. Up to you. Here, description. What I typically do is just not putting anything else other than a link back to my feature sheet. So I will say see feature sheet at, and then here I'll go back to my feature sheets, go to tool, link to this page because this is going to give me a tiny URL, copy, paste, and then I'll just say network B just for the sake of clarity here. And then so my developers know to go look at my feature sheet in Confluence if they have more questions or they actually want to see what their piece of work is. We have original estimates, so this could be filled in later at our product backlog session. Attachments, so let's say if there's mock-ups or anything else that are not in the feature sheet that you want to include, you can put them here. Labels, at the time of the product backlog meeting, you probably do not know in which sprints that your feature or your user story will be in, so you can leave this back. So we'll just go and create. So here we go. We have an issue created, UMS 420. The security model has been successfully created. So now you know how to create your features for the product backlog meeting. Hopefully this was informative.